Hey there, YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger with a desoldering tip. I'm at a point where I've removed a component from a PCB and the hole has got solder in it. Now I found that it can be trying to remove all of the solder from a hole, even using the proper, like a good desoldering tool, desoldering braid. And one of the ways that I like to handle this is with a pin. You get a long pin, long skinny, like a needle for sewing, and I will flip the board over so I'm looking at the bottom of it, center the pin in the cup of solder, and then have a fresh tip in my iron, a real pointy tip, and I'll go in there and lay that tip up against the side of the needle. And what'll happen is it'll get to the melting temperature, which it does take a while. You may need to move it from one side to the other and wobble it. Just be patient. And what'll happen is the needle will drop through. And at that point, you take the heat off of it, you let it cool, and then you'll need to use a needle nose pliers on the needle. And what I do is I spin it, and then I pull it out. And what you'll have when you flip it over is a little cup, a hollow cup. And typically, that's enough. That hollow cup will be the same diameter of the part. Like in this case, I'm installing transistor sockets. Now I had one that it wasn't enough, like it wasn't going through, and basically at that point I'll flip the unit over, like I'll get the pin jammed on there and then put the needle in the socket, flip the whole thing over real carefully, holding everything, and place the needle on the base of the table I'm working on, put some downward pressure, have the solder come wrapping up to that point, and then melt a fresh amount of solder around that joint, and then it'll seat itself really nicely. So that's using a needle to aid in desoldering when you've removed a component. Typically this means that, like, you built a pedal and maybe you're not thrilled with something about the circuit is not up to your meeting, and then you go on some forum and read, oh, well, you can do this modification. Now, I found that with PCBs, you don't have a real lot of chances to heat that trace up. If you keep playing with the trace and trying to use a desoldering tool, the plunger, eventually what'll happen is it'll fail and it'll detach itself, and then you've got to run a jumper wire, and it gets a little messy. I found that this needle trick has never failed me. Every time that I find myself in the position of I'm going to be removing a component, which is my worst hated thing, I am a cut once type of hacker. That's how I like to do it, meaning if I need to solder a component, and I ideally only want to be doing that one time, and I want to be pulling shit out, even if it's a socket, you know. So in this case, my plan is that I will install, like, it comes with a 5K resistor, and it says you can run for anywhere from a 5K to 100K. The more resistance, the higher the value resistor that you use, the more gain. So more than likely what I'm going to do is I've got 2 or 3 sockets installed. When I get all 4 of them installed, I will just seat some resistors in the sockets until I find about what I like. Like, I'm going to try 47K, which is right in the middle of 0 and 100, basically. Try those 47Ks. When I figure out what I really like, at that point I will trim them nice, and solder them into the sockets. I know a lot of people remove their sockets. I'm not going to do that. There's plenty of other components. There's some larger, taller components. So there really isn't going to be an issue as far as the height. It's not going to look as good as it could if I mounted them right to the board. But who's looking? All right, you guys, good luck with your desoldering. And if you've got any questions, ask somebody else. Take care of yourselves. Try to stay cool. If you've got a pet, hug your pet. Give them an extra treat from Petey. And peace.